We need to build a mass movement on housing, just like we did on water charges, with massive protests on the streets that unite trade unions, political parties, Sinn Féin, the Socialists, people before profit, community groups, residents' unions like CA2. We need everyone to come together to put their shoulder to the wheel and build a mass movement on housing. And I'll tell you why. Because there's a lot of people out there saying to themselves, sure, nothing's going to change until you get rid of Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, so we just wait for the next election. But you can't just wait for the next election. What if the next election is 4 years away? Things will just get worse and worse and worse. And the longer we sit on our arses, the worse things will get. I mean, only last week it was in the news that British Aerospace, the British arms company that sells missiles to Saudi Arabia so they can bomb the living hell out of people in Yemen. British Aerospace used their pension fund to buy up a load of houses in Crumlin and Kimmage in Dublin. And now Dublin City Council is going to lease those houses off British Aerospace. So it's not just vulture funds and developers and landlords who are having a laugh at the expense of working class Irish people. British arms manufacturers, companies that make their living by blowing the living daylights out of working class and poor people around the world, are now laughing all the way to the bank at our expense. And the only way we can send a message to the political establishment is by mobilising on the streets. Now, some of the bigger trade unions, like Force, have been reluctant to join demonstrations on the streets for housing. And to be honest, even when an election comes, if the people don't mobilise, the negotiations about what government's going to come out of that election will be very, very different. Because you better bet that the likes of Larry Goodman and Dennis O'Brien and the media use whatever means they can to make sure that any government that's formed listens to them. And lobbyists have already said in the papers this week that their aversion to talking to Sinn Féin is evaporating the closer Sinn Féin get to government. So the vulture funds are getting ready to put pressure on Sinn Féin to bow to their interests. And some in the leadership of Sinn Féin are already talking about being open to coalition with Fianna Fáil. Get on to the leading circles of your party and demand they join a mobilisation for housing in the spring. The National Housing and Homelessness Coalition has suggested a protest in March, so we have January and February to build it. But whatever group you're in, party or trade union, you need to say to your representatives that you want to be part of that protest. The landlord parties aren't frightened of debates in the Dáil, but they are scared of the working class if we stand up.